Admiral Frank Porter stood tall at the front of the large meeting room. His blue skin gleamed under the bright lights as he looked at the 20 fleet commanders seated before him. Each commander represented a battleship in the Galactic Hegemony's third invasion fleet. Porter tapped the control pad on his wrist, and a hologram appeared above the center table. "This is our target," Porter said, pointing to a small blue-green planet rotating slowly in the projection. "Our scouts found it 3 cycles ago in Sector 87B. Initial scans show abundant water, minerals, and a breathable atmosphere." The commanders leaned forward, studying the image with their 4 eyes. The planet looked peaceful and mostly covered in water. "What about the locals?" asked Commander Olivia Martinez. Her voice was always the first to question new missions. Porter had expected this. "Primitive," Porter replied with a dismissive wave of his hand. "They have basic technology, ground vehicles, some flying machines, and primitive weapons. Nothing that can stand against our battleships." Martinez frowned. Her red facial tentacles twitched, a sign she wasn't convinced. "With respect, Admiral, shouldn't we run more scans? This planet is far from our usual territories. We know very little about this region of space." Captain Scott Hudson laughed from across the table. "Scared of primitives, Martinez. The High Council wants this planet secured before the Vex Alliance finds it. We don't have time for more scans." Porter nodded at Hudson. "Exactly. Our information is sufficient. The locals use fossil fuels and have only reached their own moon. Their weapons are chemical-based projectiles and simple explosives." He expanded the hologram to show a detailed invasion plan. "We will send landing pods to these 6 continents simultaneously. Hudson, your ship Inevitable Victory will lead the first wave." Hudson grinned, showing his sharp teeth. "My troops are ready, sir. We'll have control of their major cities within days." Porter continued outlining the plan. The hegemony needed new resources after the long war with the Vex Alliance. This small planet had everything they needed: metals, water, and land for colonization. The native species would be relocated to work camps or reservations. Martinez raised her hand again. "Sir, have we identified what type of beings live there? Are they mammalian? Reptilian?" "Mammals," answered Science Officer Greg Daniels, checking his datapad. "Bipedal with limited strength and endurance. They call themselves humans, though our translation might not be exact. They have divided their planet into nation-states that often fight each other. This division will make conquest easier." "What about space defenses?" asked another commander. "Minimal," Porter said confidently. "They have some satellites and a small space station, but nothing with weapons. Our ships will remain undetected until landing." Strategic Officer William Bell stood up and pointed to several spots on the holographic planet. "These are their largest military bases. Once we neutralize them, resistance should collapse quickly." Porter ended the briefing by assigning sectors to each commander. Hudson's flagship would lead, with Martinez providing support from orbit. The invasion would begin in 3 days once they reached the target solar system. As the commanders filed out, Martinez approached Porter privately. "Sir, something doesn't feel right. This planet is too perfect. Good resources, weak defenses, and an unclaimed space. Why hasn't anyone found it before?" Porter put his hand on her shoulder. "Your caution is noted, Commander. But the High Council is eager for a victory after our recent setbacks. This is an easy win that will restore our standing." Martinez nodded, but her tentacles still twitched with worry as she left the room. Porter looked back at the hologram. Such a small blue planet. The locals wouldn't know what hit them. By next month, the planet would fly the hegemony flag, and he would return home a celebrated conqueror. If only he knew how wrong he was. The bridge of the Inevitable Victory hummed with activity as the massive ship led the fleet toward the small blue planet. Captain Scott Hudson sat in his command chair, watching the main screen with a satisfied smile. After 3 days of travel, they had entered the target solar system and were approaching their objective. "Status report," Hudson ordered, his 4 eyes focused on the growing image of the planet. Lisa Blackwell, the communications officer, turned from her station with a puzzled look on her face. "Captain, I'm detecting unusual transmission patterns from the planet. They're structured data streams, not random noise." Hudson frowned slightly. This didn't match their intelligence reports. What kind of data? Complex digital signals, much more advanced than expected for a primitive species. Blackwell adjusted her equipment. There are millions of separate communication channels. The entire planet seems to be connected by some kind of global information network. Science Officer Greg Daniels moved to Blackwell's station and studied her readings. His blue skin paled slightly. "These don't match our reconnaissance data, Captain. The signals suggest technology at least at level 3, possibly level 4. "Impossible," Hudson dismissed with a wave of his 3-fingered hand. "The scouts were there just 3 cycles ago. A species can't advance that quickly." Strategic Officer William Bell nodded in agreement. "It's probably natural phenomena interfering with our sensors, or faulty equipment. We've traveled a long way." Daniels didn't look convinced. "Sir, I recommend we pause and conduct a full scan before proceeding. These readings—" "We don't have time for that," Hudson interrupted. Admiral Porter's orders were clear. "We maintain stealth, enter orbit, and deploy the first wave immediately." On the lower deck, Commander Olivia Martinez entered the pod bay where invasion troops were preparing for deployment. The soldiers were checking their weapons and armor, excitement visible in their expressions. Martinez still couldn't shake her feeling of unease. "Commander," a young lieutenant greeted her. "The troops are ready. First wave pods are loaded and prepared for launch." Martinez nodded, then checked her data pad as it beeped with a message from Blackwell. She read the report about the unexpected signal patterns and felt her facial tentacles curl with worry. She immediately contacted the bridge. "Captain, we should reconsider our approach," Martinez urged when Hudson's face appeared on her screen. "These signals don't match a primitive society. We need more information." Hudson's expression hardened. "The Admiral's orders stand, Commander. Prepare your troops for deployment in 30 minutes. Fleet Command has invested too much in this operation to delay based on some unusual signals." Back on the bridge, Blackwell continued monitoring the planetary communications with growing concern. "Captain, I'm detecting artificial satellites in orbit around the planet. Hundreds of them. Some appear to be observational platforms." "Can they detect us?" Hudson asked, finally showing some concern. "Our cloaking technology should prevent that," Bell assured him. "Primitive sensors can't penetrate our shields." As the fleet moved closer to the planet, Daniel studied the atmosphere readings. "Sir, I'm detecting unusual levels of pollutants and artificial compounds in the atmosphere. Evidence of large-scale industrial activity." Hudson stroked his chin, the first seeds of doubt beginning to take root. "Keep monitoring, but proceed as planned." The invasion fleet entered the planet's orbit, positioning ships above each major continent. Hudson gave the order to prepare the first wave of landing pods. 3,000 soldiers would establish beachheads in remote areas before the main invasion force arrived. In the pod bay, Martinez made one final check of her troops' equipment. The feeling of dread had only grown stronger. Something was very wrong about this mission, but orders were orders. "Launch in 5 minutes," came Hudson's voice over the ship's communication system. As the countdown began, Blackwell suddenly straightened in her chair, her eyes wide with alarm. "Captain, I'm detecting high-energy radar suites. They're scanning the upper atmosphere. It might have detected our heat signature." Hudson leaped from his chair. "Impossible. Their technology cooled." "Sir," Daniels interrupted, his voice tight with fear, "I think we've made a terrible mistake." Squad leader Allison Carter gripped the handles of her landing pod as it shook violently through the planet's atmosphere. Red warning lights flashed around her. This wasn't supposed to happen. The descent should have been smooth and undetected. "All units, maintain formation," she ordered into her helmet communicator. 20 pods were under her command, each carrying 5 elite soldiers. They were supposed to land in an empty area called North Dakota to establish a forward base. "Squad leader, we have a problem," came the panicked voice of Sergeant Joe Miller. "Local flying machines are approaching from the south. They're moving fast." Carter checked her scanner. The sergeant was right. Several objects were moving toward them at high speed. This was impossible. The locals shouldn't have detected them, and their primitive aircraft shouldn't be able to reach this altitude. "Evasive maneuvers," Carter ordered. "Spread out and increase speed." Her pod jerked to the right as her pilot obeyed. Through the small viewing port, Carter saw the other pods scatter. Then she saw the local aircraft. They were sleek, metallic, and much more advanced than anything in their briefing files. A bright flash lit up the sky as one of her pods exploded. Then another. "They're firing at us," shouted her pilot. "These aren't primitive weapons." "All units, emergency landing procedures," Carter commanded, trying to keep her voice steady. "Forget the designated zones. Just get to the ground." Carter's pod plunged toward the surface, shaking so hard she thought it would break apart. 3 more of her unit's pods were hit by the local aircraft. The humans were not only tracking them perfectly but shooting them down with weapons that could penetrate their armor. "What's happening?" Carter whispered to herself. This wasn't how the invasion was supposed to go. Her pod crashed through a forest canopy and slammed into the ground. The impact knocked Carter against her restraints, and pain shot through her shoulder. When the pod finally stopped moving, she quickly checked the life support readings. Her 4 soldiers were injured but alive. "Status reports, all units," she called into her communicator. Only 7 pods responded. Out of 20 pods and 100 soldiers, less than 40 had made it to the surface. The rest had been shot down by the local defenders. Carter unstrapped herself and grabbed her weapon. "We need to secure the area and hide the pods. Local ground forces will be coming soon." Her team emerged from the damaged pod into a dense forest. The air was cooler than expected, and strange birds made noises above them. They quickly covered their pod with branches and leaves. "Squad leader," called Private Tim Ryan, their communications specialist. "I'm picking up local transmissions. They're tracking our landing sites. They have our exact coordinates." Carter felt a cold fear spread through her body. How is that possible? "I don't know, but they're organized. Multiple local military units are converging on all our landing sites, and they're sharing information with each other." In the distance, Carter heard the sound of engines. Ground vehicles were approaching. "Move out," she ordered. "We need to find better cover and make contact with command." They traveled deeper into the forest, trying to put distance between themselves and the landing site. Private Ryan worked on establishing a secure connection to the inevitable victory in orbit. "I've got a connection," Ryan finally announced, setting up a small holographic projector. The image of Captain Hudson appeared, looking stressed. "Report, squad leader." "Sir, the mission is compromised," Carter said. "We've lost over half our landing force. The locals have technology far beyond what was reported. They tracked our pods through the atmosphere and shot them down with advanced weapons." Hudson's expression darkened. "The same is happening to all landing parties. We've lost contact with 15 squads already." "Sir, what do we do now?" Carter asked. "Stay hidden," Hudson ordered. "We're reassessing the situation. This planet is not what we were told." As the projection faded, Carter heard helicopters overhead. The humans were searching the forest with infrared sensors. "We need to move again," she told her team. "And we need to find out what planet this really is." None of them yet realized they had just invaded the most dangerous world in the galaxy. Night fell over the forest as Allison Carter and her 4 remaining soldiers huddled in a small cave. They had been moving for 6 hours, staying ahead of the human search parties. The sound of helicopters still filled the air, and bright searchlights swept through the trees. "We need to understand what we're dealing with," Carter said, keeping her voice low. "Ryan, Can you access their information networks? Our translators should be able to interpret their language. Private Tim Ryan nodded and pulled out a small device. I'll try to connect to their wireless data streams. They seem to have a planet-wide network. While Ryan worked, Carter checked on her injured soldiers. Private Sam Kelly had a broken arm, and Corporal Jane Foster was nursing a deep cut on her leg. Everyone was tired and confused. Why were they ready for us? Foster asked. How did they know we were coming? Carter shook her head. I don't know. Something isn't right about this mission. Ryan suddenly gasped. Squad leader, you need to see this. Carter moved to his side as a holographic display showed streams of information. Ryan had successfully connected to something called the Internet and was sorting through data. What am I looking at? Carter asked. This planet, Ryan said, his voice shaking. I know where we are now. This is Earth. A cold silence fell over the cave. Everyone knew that name. That's impossible, whispered Private Kelly. Earth is off limits. Everyone knows that. It matches everything, Ryan insisted. The blue oceans, the single moon, the 7 continents. This is definitely Earth. Carter felt her heart's beating faster. Earth. Captain Scott Hudson stood frozen on the bridge of the inevitable Victory as chaos erupted around him. The main screen showed 3 of his fleet's ships surrounded by explosions. Earth's missiles shouldn't have been able to damage their advanced shields, but somehow they were. Status report, Hudson demanded, his voice cracking with stress. The Swift Justice and Righteous Fury have taken heavy damage, reported Strategic Officer Bell. Earth has launched over 200 missiles from different continents. They're coordinating their attacks globally. Lisa Blackwell worked frantically at her communication station. Sir, I'm intercepting their military transmissions. They'd been tracking us since we entered their solar system. They knew we were coming. Hudson couldn't believe what he was hearing. How could primitive humans have detected their stealth technology? Nothing made sense. Sir, Science Officer Daniels called urgently. The humans have space stations with weapons. They're launching smaller attack vessels from orbital platforms. The main screen shifted to show small human spacecraft heading toward them. They were crude compared to hegemony vessels, but there were dozens of them. Impossible, Hudson whispered. The intelligence said they had barely reached their moon. Commander Olivia Martinez's voice came through the ship's communication system. Captain, this is Commander Martinez. Squad Leader Carter has confirmed we've invaded Earth. I repeat, this planet is Earth. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Everyone had heard of Earth and its dangerous inhabitants. Humans were known throughout the galaxy for their aggressive expansion and rapid technological advancement. Their planet was clearly marked in all star charts as a place to avoid. How could this happen? Hudson asked no one in particular. How could we mistake Earth for an undeveloped world? The ship shook violently as a missile hit their shields. Shield strength down to 80%, reported the defense officer. They're targeting our propulsion systems. Hudson made a quick decision. All ships, this is Captain Hudson. Begin immediate retreat. I repeat, full retreat from the Earth system. This mission is aborted. But retreat wasn't going to be easy. 2 more hegemony ships reported critical damage. The humans were launching more missiles and spacecraft every minute. Sir, Blackwell called out, I'm receiving a transmission from Earth. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Put it through, Hudson ordered. The main screen showed a human in a military uniform. The universal translator converted his words. Attention alien vessels. This is Major Peter Johnson of Earth United Defense. You have committed an act of war against Earth. Surrender your vessels immediately or face destruction. We have targeted your engines and weapon systems. You cannot escape. Hudson cut the transmission. Arrogant humans. They think their primitive weapons can stop us. As if in answer to his thoughts, a massive explosion rocked the ship. Alarms blared throughout the bridge. Direct hit to our rear shields. shouted the defense officer. Shield strength down to 50%. Another screen showed a new threat. A human submarine had launched missiles from beneath the ocean's surface, hitting them from an unexpected angle. "They're attacking from everywhere," Bell said in disbelief. "Space, land, sea, air. Their whole planet is fighting us." Hudson watched as another hegemony ship, the Glorious Conquest, lost power and began drifting toward Earth's atmosphere. "Sir," Daniel said quietly, "I think I know why our intelligence was wrong." Hudson looked at him. "Why?" "This could have been a trap. Humans might have fed us false information, knowing we would come with an inadequate force." The idea seemed unbelievable, but nothing about this mission had gone as expected. Suddenly, a new alarm sounded. The sensors detected a massive energy buildup from Earth's surface. "They're launching a nuclear missile," Daniels reported, his voice shaking. "Multiple nuclear missiles from different continents." Hudson stared at the screen in horror as the first nuclear explosion hit the Swift Justice, creating a blinding flash. The ship's shields failed completely. "Get us out of here," Hudson ordered. "Maximum speed. All available power to engines." As the inevitable Victory turned away from Earth, Hudson realized they had made the worst mistake in hegemony history. They had invaded the most dangerous planet in the galaxy with a completely inadequate force. And now they were paying the price. The inevitable Victory shuddered as its engines strained at maximum power. Captain Hudson gripped his command chair as the ship fled Earth's orbit. 3 of their fleet's ships had already been destroyed, and 4 more were so badly damaged they could barely move. "Status of the retreat," Hudson demanded. Strategic Officer Bell looked up from his station, his face grim. 5 ships have cleared Earth's gravity well and are preparing for faster-than-light jump. The Righteous Fury and Stellar Dominance won't make it. Their engines are too damaged. Hudson closed all 4 of his eyes briefly. Those ships carried over 2,000 soldiers and crew members. But there was nothing he could do for them now. "Sir," Communications Officer Blackwell called out, "our ground forces are still scattered across the planet's surface. What are our orders for them?" Before Hudson could answer, Science Officer Daniels interrupted. "Captain, new contacts detected. The humans have deployed vessels from their moon base. They're pursuing our fleet." The main screen showed several spacecraft launching from Earth's moon. They were bulkier and less elegant than hegemony ships, but they moved with surprising speed. "That's impossible," Bell said. "Our intelligence said they only had a small research station on their moon." "Our intelligence was wrong about everything," Hudson snapped. "Clearly, the humans have hidden capabilities." On one of the damaged hegemony ships, Commander Olivia Martinez watched as her vessel limped away from Earth. The ship's engines were failing and human vessels were closing in fast. "Commander," her pilot said, "we won't reach the jump point before they catch us." Martinez nodded grimly. "Divert all power to rear shields and weapons. We'll hold them off so the other ships can escape." Her ship turned to face the approaching human vessels. The weapons officer targeted the lead Earth ship and fired. The energy beam struck directly, but to everyone's shock, the human vessel continued forward, damaged but still functional. "They have energy shields," the weapons officer asked in disbelief. "How is that possible?" Martinez had no answer. Nothing about this mission had gone as expected. Nothing matched their intelligence reports. Back on the inevitable Victory, Hudson watched as Martinez's ship engaged the human vessels. It was a brave last stand, but it wouldn't last long. "Sir," Daniels said, "I've analyzed the human vessels. They're using technology similar to our own, but cruder. They shouldn't have this level of space combat capability for at least another 100 years. Unless," Blackwell suggested, "they've had contact with other spacefaring species before." The implication hung in the air. Had humans already joined the galactic community without the hegemony's knowledge? A new voice came over the ship's communication system. "This is Major Nathan Bradley of the Earth Space Defense Force to alien vessel. You are ordered to surrender immediately." The main screen showed a human male in a black uniform. He looked calm and confident, not like someone facing a technologically superior enemy. "We don't take orders from primitives," Hudson replied angrily. Major Bradley smiled slightly. "Primitives? Is that what you thought we were? Is that why you attacked us? A costly mistake." Hudson cut the transmission. "Prepare for the jump to faster than light. We need to inform the High Council about this disaster." As the ship's engines began the jump sequence, Hudson looked one last time at the blue planet they were fleeing. Such a small world, but so deadly. How could they have been so wrong? "Sir," Blackwell said softly, "what about our soldiers still on Earth's surface?" Hudson's face hardened. There was nothing they could do for those troops now. They're on their own. We can't risk any more ships. The inevitable victory, and the remaining ships of the fleet vanished into faster-than-light travel, leaving behind their captured comrades and destroyed vessels. In Earth orbit, Major Bradley watched the aliens flee. "Track their jump signature," he ordered his crew. "I want to know exactly where they're going." "Yes, sir," replied his navigator. "Do you think they'll be back with a larger force?" Bradley's expression was grim. "Not if we find them first." The great council chamber of the Galactic Hegemony buzzed with angry voices. News of the failed invasion had spread quickly, and representatives from 30 different species were shouting and demanding explanations. At the center of the chamber, Admiral Frank Porter stood alone, his blue skin pale with stress. "Silence!" shouted High Counselor Vex, banging his ceremonial staff on the floor. The noise gradually died down. "Admiral Porter will explain how this catastrophe happened." Porter cleared his throat. "The invasion force encountered unexpected resistance. The planet was not as primitive as our intelligence suggested." "Be clear, Admiral," Vex demanded. "What planet did you attack?" Porter looked down. "Earth." The chamber erupted again, this time with gasps and cries of shock. Everyone knew about Earth. Every spacefaring species had strict rules about avoiding human territory. "You invaded Earth?" Counselor Zara of the Praxian Alliance asked in disbelief. "The homeworld of humans, the most dangerous species in the sector. Our intelligence identified it as an undeveloped world," Porter insisted. "We had no reason to believe." 8 ships destroyed, interrupted Counselor Mech, reading from a datapad. 6 more damaged. Over 15,000 troops and crew lost. The worst military disaster in hegemony history. The doors of the council chamber suddenly opened. A tall figure in a suit unlike anything the aliens had seen before walked confidently into the room. He was clearly human. "Who are you?" demanded High Counselor Vex. "How did you get in here?" The human smiled. "Ambassador Richard Monroe, representing Earth. As for how I got here, your security isn't as good as you think." The council members looked at each other in confusion. Earth didn't have an ambassador. They weren't part of the galactic community. "Earth has no standing here," Porter said. "You are not recognized." "Actually," Monroe interrupted, "Earth has had observers in your society for over 50 years. We've been studying you, learning your languages, understanding your technology. We just chose not to announce ourselves officially until now." A cold silence fell over the chamber. The idea that humans had been secretly watching them for decades was disturbing. Monroe walked to the center of the room. "I'm here to deliver a message from Earth's united government. The unprovoked attack on our planet constitutes an act of war under the Galactic Compact, Section 7. How do you know about the Compact?" asked Counselor Zara. "That agreement is between established galactic powers. As I said, we've been observing for some time." Monroe's voice was calm but carried an underlying threat. "Under the Compact, Earth demands that those responsible for the attack be surrendered for justice. Otherwise, we will consider ourselves at war with the entire hegemony." Porter's face drained of color. "You can't possibly threaten us. Even with your surprising level of technology, you're still just one planet. The hegemony has thousands of worlds." Monroe smiled again. "Admiral, you still don't understand what you're dealing with. Did you wonder why your intelligence was so wrong about Earth's capabilities?" In a quiet corner of the chamber, Intelligence Director Patricia Walsh watched the exchange with growing dread. She had begun to suspect the terrible truth. It was a trap, Walsh whispered to herself. We were set up. Monroe continued addressing the council. The primitive planet data was planted by human intelligence operatives. We needed to identify which of the galactic powers would attack an apparently defenseless world. You failed the test, Admiral. The council erupted into shouts and accusations. Some members demanded Porter's immediate arrest, while others called for negotiations with the humans. High Counselor Vex struggled to restore order. Ambassador Monroe, surely we can resolve this without further conflict. The attack was a mistake based on faulty intelligence. Perhaps, Monroe replied. My government is prepared to discuss terms. But first, we require the immediate surrender of Admiral Porter and all others who planned this invasion. Porter backed away. This is outrageous. I was following orders based on intelligence reports. Intelligence that was planted by humans, Walsh said, stepping forward. We walked right into their trap. Monroe smiled one more time. Your decision, counselors. Justice for the attack or war with Earth. You have 48 hours to decide. 6 months after the failed invasion, Admiral Frank Porter sat in a small cell. Tomorrow would be the final day of his trial. He and 12 other high-ranking officers had been surrendered to Earth's justice system as part of the peace agreement between humans and the galactic hegemony. The door to his cell opened, and Captain Scott Hudson entered. The captain looked tired and much older than when they had last met. They're letting you go, Porter said, not bothering to stand. I heard the news. Hudson nodded. My testimony helped them understand the chain of command. They decided I was just following orders. Porter laughed bitterly. While I gave those orders. How convenient. I didn't come here to argue, Hudson said. I brought you something. He placed a small device on the table. It's a human history book. I thought you might want to understand them better. Porter picked up the device. Why would I care about human history now? Because it explains everything, Hudson replied. How they defeated us. Why they set the trap. It's all in their past. After Hudson left, Porter activated the device. Images and text appeared, showing the long history of human warfare. Countless battles and wars filled their history, from primitive tribes fighting with stone tools to global conflicts that killed millions. Humans had spent their entire existence fighting, improving their weapons, developing new strategies. War had driven their technology forward at an incredible pace. Porter read through the night, absorbing the violent history of the species that had defeated them so completely. The next morning, he stood before the mixed tribunal of human and alien judges. Ambassador Monroe sat in the observation area, watching calmly. Admiral Frank Porter, said the head judge, you have been found guilty of planning and ordering an unprovoked attack on Earth. Before we pass sentence, do you have any final words? Porter looked at the humans in the room. I didn't understand what Earth was. None of us did. We thought we were invading a primitive world. But instead, we attacked the most battle-hardened species in the galaxy. I made a mistake, but I also believe I was deliberately set up to make that mistake. The judges conferred briefly, then announced the sentence. 20 years on a prison colony. It could have been worse. The hegemony had sacrificed Porter and the other planners to avoid a wider war with humans. As guards led Porter away, he passed by Captain Hudson in the corridor. I read the history book, Porter said quietly. Humans never stopped fighting each other. They've had more wars in their short history than most species have in thousands of years. Hudson nodded. That's why they were ready for us. War is in their nature. In a conference room nearby, Ambassador Monroe met with representatives from 12 alien civilizations. The failed hegemony invasion had dramatically changed Earth's standing in galactic politics. As agreed, Monroe said, Earth will receive technology transfers from all signatory powers as compensation for the unprovoked attack. In return, Earth agrees to share certain of our unique innovations. The alien representatives looked uncomfortable but signed the agreement. No one wanted to be on the wrong side of humans now. In just 6 months, Earth had gone from an isolated world to a rising power in galactic politics. Later that day, in a secure facility beneath the United Nations building in New York, Major Nathan Bradley reviewed the latest intelligence reports. Earth ships had secretly followed the hegemony fleet back to their home systems, mapping their territory and defenses. "Are we ready for the next phase?" asked General Laura Stevens, the head of Earth's new Space Force. Bradley nodded. "The alien technology we captured has been reverse engineered. Our new ships are being built with improved versions of their weapons and shields. Within a year, we'll have the strongest fleet in this sector of the galaxy." Stevens smiled. Not bad for a primitive species. Across the stars, a new warning was being distributed to all spacefaring races. Earth, not a target. Humanity defends its own. Some added an unofficial note. "And then comes after you." The species that had spent millennia fighting itself was now looking outward. The galaxy would never be the same.